My name is Daniel Brooks, and until a few months ago, my life was simple. Not perfect, not glamorous, but stable. I was 26, working as a junior analyst at a mid-sized marketing firm in the city. My days followed the same rhythm: morning coffee, a crowded commute, 8 hours at my desk under the scrutinizing gaze of my boss, Mr. Caldwell, and evenings spent with Emma, my girlfriend of 3 years. She was the anchor that kept me grounded, the person who reminded me that there was more to life than spreadsheets and deadlines. But there was something about me that Emma didn't know, something I'd buried so deep that I could barely admit it to myself. Since my teenage years, I had always been fascinated by the idea of femininity. I didn't call it crossdressing at first. Back then, it was just trying things on. I remembered sneaking into my sister's room when the house was empty, my hands trembling as I ran my fingers over her dresses. Sometimes I'd slip into one, staring at myself in her mirror with a mix of shame and wonder. The silk clung to me differently than my clothes ever did, and in that reflection I saw someone fragile, vulnerable, but oddly free. That secret never went away, not even as I grew older. Through college, through my first job, and into my relationship with Emma, the urge lingered. I never told anyone, not her, not my friends, not even my sister. To the outside world, I was just Daniel. Hardworking, quiet, a bit nervous at times, but dependable. On the inside, I lived with a constant tug-of-war between fear and desire. The setting of my life, however, didn't make keeping secrets easy. The office was a place of sharp suits, stiff smiles, and relentless competition. Mr. Caldwell, my boss, embodied all of it. He was the kind of man who never missed a detail, who could cut through excuses with one look. He dressed immaculately, his ties always pressed, his shoes polished to a shine. Around him, I felt like a schoolboy who was constantly on the verge of failing an exam. Emma was the opposite. She was warmth itself. A schoolteacher, she had patience for everyone, except me, when I grew too withdrawn. She often teased me for working too late, for letting the office take more from me than it ever gave back. We lived together in a modest apartment, filled with plants she nurtured and books stacked in corners. Our life together had a rhythm: movies on Friday nights, brunch on Sundays, whispered conversations in bed where she asked about my dreams and I deflected with half-answers. Because how could I tell her the truth? That sometimes, when she was gone, I would go to the back of my closet where a carefully hidden box sat behind old winter coats. Inside was a collection I had built slowly, carefully over the years. A few dresses bought online, a pair of nude heels, a wig with auburn waves, and a small makeup kit I barely knew how to use. Each piece felt like contraband, like something that could destroy me if discovered. The thrill of it was intoxicating, but so was the fear. Every time I pulled a box out, I worried that Emma might come home early, that she might see me as someone she couldn't love anymore. That secret sat between us like an invisible wall, even when she leaned into me, even when she kissed me goodnight. The story of how my boss became entangled in that secret still feels surreal, even now. It started on an ordinary Thursday morning. I remember walking into the office, tie slightly crooked because I'd rushed through dressing, and feeling Caldwell's eyes on me as soon as I sat down. He didn't have to say much, he rarely did. One raised eyebrow was enough to make me fumble with my paperwork. The man had a way of amplifying every flaw until it felt like a catastrophe. That day, though, something shifted. I made a mistake on a client report, something minor, something anyone could have done, but Caldwell treated it like treason. He called me into his office, shut the door, and leaned back in his leather chair. His gaze was sharp, calculating. "Daniel," he said, voice low and deliberate, "do you know what happens to employees who make me look incompetent?" My throat tightened. I mumbled an apology, but his smirk told me it wasn't enough. "You're sloppy. Always nervous. Do you know what you need?" he asked, pausing just long enough for the silence to crush me. "Discipline. A reminder that appearances matter." The words didn't make sense at first, but Caldwell had a way of speaking that made everything sound like a trap, like he was 3 steps ahead of me. That night, I went home to Emma, trying to shake off the unease. She noticed, of course, she always did. She curled up beside me on the couch, asking what was wrong. I lied, saying it was just work stress. She kissed my cheek and told me she believed in me. The guilt burned. What I didn't know then was that Caldwell's punishment would soon drag my deepest secret into the open. That the world I had worked so hard to keep separate, the world of Daniel and the hidden self I only glimpsed in mirrors, was about to collide in ways I could never control. And when skirts and makeup entered the picture, they wouldn't just be fabric and powder anymore. They would become chains, choices, and eventually revelations. The days after Caldwell's ominous warning felt like walking on a knife's edge. I couldn't shake his words. Appearances matter. He had said it with such calculated precision that it lingered in my head, growing heavier with every passing hour. What had he meant? A formal warning? A suspension? Or something more? I tried to bury myself in work, fixing every detail on my reports, double-checking numbers until my eyes blurred, but I still felt exposed under his gaze. He watched me in meetings like he knew something about me I hadn't told anyone. At night, Emma noticed the change. "You're quieter," she said one evening as we cooked dinner together. She was chopping onions, her sleeves rolled up, her hair tied back loosely. She looked at me with soft concern. "Is it Caldwell again?" I swallowed hard. "Yeah, he's been on my case." Her lips pressed together. "You let him get to you too much. He's just a boss, Daniel. He doesn't own you." Her words should have reassured me, but instead they made me feel like I was carrying a secret heavier than either of us could bear. Because in some twisted way, Caldwell did own me. If not legally, then through the power he had over my career. And soon, as I would discover, over my identity. It was Friday afternoon when it began. The office was unusually quiet. Half the staff had left early. Caldwell summoned me to his office, his tone clipped, his expression unreadable. When I stepped inside, the blinds were half drawn, the light cutting his face into shadows. "Close the door," he said. I obeyed, my palms slick with sweat. He gestured for me to sit, then leaned forward on his desk, studying me like a specimen. "You want to keep this job, don't you?" "Yes, sir." "Then you're going to learn something." He slid a small black shopping bag across the desk toward me. "Take this home. Don't ask questions. Consider it an exercise in discipline." I froze. "What is it?" His smirk widened. "Open it at home. Not here. And, Daniel, don't disappoint me again." I carried the bag out like it was a live bomb. My coworkers glanced at me curiously, but no one asked. When I got home, Emma was still at school for grading night. I dropped the bag on the bed, heart pounding, and pulled out the contents. Inside was a neatly folded navy blue skirt, a cream blouse, and a box of makeup essentials, foundation, mascara, lipstick. My stomach lurched. My secret, the thing I had hidden for years, stared back at me, but not from my own hand. From his. How did he know? I sat on the edge of the bed, staring, trembling. The fabric felt too real in my hands, too much like temptation and danger rolled into one. Caldwell couldn't possibly know about my hidden box. Could he? Had he somehow found out? Or was this just some cruel coincidence, a punishment meant to humiliate me? But it didn't feel random. It felt deliberate. I should have thrown the clothes away. I should have burned them, called Emma, told her everything. But instead, I locked the bedroom door, drew the curtains, and unfolded the blouse. The silk was smooth against my fingers, sending shivers down my arms. My box in the closet suddenly felt like it was calling me, like the universe had torn down a wall I'd built. Slowly, hesitantly, I laid Caldwell's items next to my own collection. His skirt matched perfectly with a pair of heels I'd bought months ago but never worn. My hands shook as I began to change. First, the blouse. It slipped over my shoulders, hanging looser than it would on a woman, but still draping in a way that made me feel softer, smaller. Then the skirt, pulling it up my legs, zipping it carefully. The fabric hugged my waist in a way that made me gasp quietly. I stood in front of the mirror, my reflection blurred with disbelief. Then came the makeup. I'd only practiced a few times before, clumsy attempts that left me frustrated. But this time, I followed the instructions Caldwell had tucked inside the box, handwritten notes in his precise, sharp handwriting. He had written them for me. Foundation first. Blend carefully. Then eyeliner. Don't smudge. It felt invasive, like he was standing behind me, watching. But I obeyed. My reflection slowly shifted, not into a perfect woman, but into someone different from Daniel. My lips painted red, my lashes darker, my skin smoother. The transformation wasn't flawless, but it was enough. Enough to feel the rush of being someone else. Enough to make me forget, for just a moment, that this had started as a punishment. A noise jolted me. The sound of keys at the door.
Emma.
Panic shot through me like fire. I scrambled to the closet, nearly tripping on the heels, my heart pounding so loud I thought it would echo through the apartment. I shoved the makeup kit and clothes into the back, yanked on my sweatpants, and wiped at my face with tissues that only smeared the lipstick worse. By the time Emma walked into the bedroom, I was sitting on the edge of the bed, breathless, pretending to scroll through my phone. She tilted her head, eyeing me suspiciously. "Why are you so jumpy?" I wasn't, I stammered. She moved closer, her eyes narrowing. "Daniel, are you sweating? What were you doing?" I forced a laugh. "Just working out. Push-ups. You know, trying to get back in shape." She chuckled, rolling her eyes.
"Right.
"I'll believe it when I see it." She kissed me lightly and went to unpack her school bag. I exhaled slowly, my chest still tight. The makeup smudges on the tissue in the trash bin felt like a ticking time bomb. That night, lying beside her as she drifted to sleep, I couldn't close my eyes. Every detail, the skirt, the lipstick, the instructions, burned in my mind. Caldwell had pulled me into this, and I didn't know why. But part of me didn't hate it. Part of me wanted more. The weekend was torture. Every time Emma left the apartment, I found myself drawn back to the closet, to the skirt and blouse. I told myself I was only checking, only making sure everything was hidden. But within minutes, I was dressed again, staring in the mirror, caught between fear and exhilaration. The heels made me taller, shakier, but they also made my reflection more convincing. I practiced walking across the carpet, the soft click of each step sending shivers through me. But then guilt would flood in. What if Emma walked in again? What if she found out? Worse, what if Caldwell demanded proof? The thought made my stomach twist. By Monday morning, I was a wreck. Dark circles under my eyes, nervous glances at every shadow in the office. Caldwell, of course, noticed immediately. He stopped by my desk, leaned down, and whispered just loud enough for me to hear.
"Well?"
"Did you learn anything?" My face burned. "Why, yes, sir." His smirk widened. "Good. You'll need practice. Appearances, Daniel. They define everything." And then he walked away, leaving me trembling in my chair, both horrified and secretly thrilled at what was coming next. The next few days blurred into a haze of paranoia. Every time Caldwell passed my desk, I felt like he could see right through me, like he knew exactly what I'd done in my apartment over the weekend. And then, on Wednesday afternoon, he proved it. I was gathering papers from the printer when his voice cut through the quiet hall. "Brooks." My office.
"Now."
I stepped inside, and as always, the blinds were drawn halfway, casting the room in stripes of light and shadow. He closed the door behind me and leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "Did you follow instructions?" I swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." "Good." His eyes flicked over me, sharp as razors. "You're sloppy in suits, Daniel. Always nervous, tugging at your tie, sweating through your collar. But I think you might learn discipline somewhere else. Did you like the skirt?" My stomach dropped. He knew. I stammered. I don't understand." But his smirk silenced me. "Don't lie. I can always tell. And let's just say I have ways of finding out." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Did he have cameras? Had he followed me? The thought made my skin crawl, but what scared me more was the flicker of excitement I couldn't suppress. The idea that he had seen me, that he knew the part of me I'd never shared with anyone. "From now on," he continued, "you'll report to me after hours. Consider it training. If you want to keep this job, you'll do exactly as I say. My throat tightened. I wanted to refuse, but I couldn't. This job paid for half the rent, for Emma's graduate classes, for the fragile stability of our life together. Yes, sir, I whispered. His smile was small, victorious. Good boy. That Friday, when the rest of the office emptied out, I lingered at my desk, pretending to finish paperwork. My hand shook so badly, I could barely type. At 7 o'clock, Caldwell appeared at my cubicle. Follow me. I trailed him into his office. On his desk sat another bag, larger this time. He gestured toward it. Change. I froze. Here. He raised an eyebrow. Do you want to keep your job? The room tilted. My mouth went dry, but I obeyed. He pointed toward the private bathroom attached to his office. I carried the bag inside, my chest tight with dread. Inside, I opened the bag to find a sleek black pencil skirt, a fitted white blouse, and a pair of black heels. There was also a wig, dark brown, shoulder-length, and another set of makeup. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looked pale, terrified. My hands trembled as I undressed, pulling on the skirt and blouse. They fit too well, like they'd been chosen for my size exactly. The heels lifted me just enough to change my posture. When I placed the wig on my head, my heart pounded so hard it hurt. I painted on the makeup carefully, remembering the steps from his instructions. This time, my reflection looked sharper, more believable. When I stepped out, Caldwell leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing with satisfaction. Better, he said softly. You see? Appearances matter. I stood frozen, heat rising to my cheeks. I should have felt humiliated.
And I did.
But beneath the shame, a dangerous thrill spread through me, curling like smoke in my chest. Walk, he ordered. I obeyed, the heels clicking across the office floor. My steps were shaky at first, but with each movement, my body adjusted. Again, he said. This time with confidence. Shoulders back. Chin up. You're not Daniel right now. You're someone better. I repeated the walk, my chest tight, my pulse hammering. His gaze followed me, heavy, controlling. When he finally dismissed me, I rushed back to the bathroom, tore off the clothes, and stuffed them into the bag. My skin burned with shame, but also something else, something I couldn't admit even to myself. That night, when I returned home, Emma was curled up on the couch with a blanket and a glass of wine. She looked up and smiled. You're late again. What's going on at work? I hesitated at the door, my mind still spinning from the session. My lips felt raw from the lipstick I'd scrubbed off, my legs sore from the heels. Just overtime, I said. She patted the seat beside her. You're working too hard, Daniel. You're not yourself lately. I sat next to her, trying to smile, but her words stabbed deeper than she knew. Not myself. She was right. And yet, in some twisted way, I wondered if what I was becoming in Caldwell's office was closer to my real self than what she saw. When she rested her head on my shoulder, the guilt nearly crushed me. Over the next 2 weeks, the sessions continued. Twice a week, always after hours, always in Caldwell's office. Each time, the outfits grew bolder. Brighter colors, higher heels, makeup that made me unrecognizable. He drilled me on posture, on speaking in softer tones, on keeping eye contact without flinching. Discipline, he repeated like a mantra. At first, I dreaded every moment. But slowly, dangerously, I began to crave it. The rush of slipping into those clothes, the strange confidence that came with seeing a different face in the mirror, it hooked me. And, at home, it tore me apart. Emma noticed the changes. You're distracted, she said one evening as we cooked dinner. You don't laugh like you used to. And you keep avoiding my eyes. I forced a smile, lying through my teeth. Just work stress. She searched my face like she didn't believe me, but she let it go for now. It was a Saturday afternoon when the danger almost became real. Emma had gone shopping with a friend, and I thought I had hours alone. I couldn't resist. I pulled out the skirt Caldwell had given me and paired it with my own auburn wig. The mirror showed someone soft, fragile, and beautiful in a way I'd never let myself believe before. I was practicing walking in the heels when the front door clicked open. "Daniel? I forgot my wallet." Emma's voice rang out. Panic froze me in place. I darted toward the bedroom, nearly tripping on the heels. I barely made it into the closet before she stepped into the room. My heart pounded as I crouched behind the coats, the wig slipping slightly off my head. Through the crack, I saw her glance around, puzzled. She grabbed her wallet from the dresser and paused, frowning at the faint smell of perfume in the air. The perfume Caldwell had slipped into one of the bags. For a terrifying second, I thought she might check the closet. But then her phone buzzed, and she hurried out, muttering something about being late. I stayed frozen in the dark closet long after the door shut, my pulse racing, sweat dripping down my back. The wig slipped fully off, falling into my lap. If she had opened that door, it would have been over. Monday morning, Caldwell stopped at my desk. He leaned down, his voice low, cutting through the hum of the office. "You almost got caught, didn't you?" I snapped my head up, shocked. "How?" His smile was razor-sharp. "Discipline, Daniel. Appearances. If you're sloppy, the people closest to you will find out. Do better." My blood ran cold. He knew too much. But instead of fear alone, something else burned in me, a twisted mix of terror and anticipation. Because now I understood this wasn't just about punishment anymore. This was about control. And the more he pushed, the more I realized I was losing it. The next session was different. When I arrived at Caldwell's office after hours, the bag waiting on his desk wasn't like the others. Instead of a skirt and blouse, it held a floral dress, soft and flowing, with a pair of strappy heels and a small clutch purse. I frowned. "This isn't office wear." He smirked. "Exactly. You're ready for the next step." "The next step?" My voice cracked. "You've learned to walk, to hold yourself properly. But appearances don't matter unless you're willing to test them. You're going out." The blood drained from my face. "Out? As in public?" He leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Yes. You'll go to the cafe across the street. Order a coffee. Sit for 10 minutes. Then come back. No excuses." My knees nearly buckled. I can't. Someone might recognize me." He chuckled darkly. "If you're disciplined, no one will. Unless you'd prefer I send Emma a little anonymous package with photos of what you've been up to." The threat struck like lightning. My throat closed, but I couldn't fight him. Slowly, I took the bag and retreated into the bathroom. The dress slipped over me like a second skin, floral patterns swirling down to my knees. The heels were higher than any I'd worn before, forcing me into careful, deliberate steps. I adjusted the wig, applied the makeup as instructed, and stared into the mirror. The reflection wasn't Daniel. Not completely. My features blurred into something softer, my posture different. I wasn't beautiful, but I was passable. Passable enough to risk 10 minutes outside. When I stepped out, Caldwell's approving nod sent a chill through me. "Perfect," he said. "Now go." I clutched the purse tightly, my heart racing as I slipped out of the office and into the night. The city street hummed with people, neon signs reflecting in the windows. Every step felt like I was walking a tightrope, every glance from a stranger a spotlight. But no one stared. No one laughed. At the cafe, I stepped up to the counter, my voice trembling as I ordered a latte. The barista barely blinked, just scribbled it down and handed me a number. Sitting at the corner table, I forced myself to breathe. 10 minutes. That was all. My hands shook as I lifted the cup, the lipstick staining the rim. But beneath the fear, something unexpected bloomed, a strange, dizzying sense of freedom. For the first time, I wasn't hiding in a locked room or a closet. I was here. I was real. When the 10 minutes ended, I left quickly, heels clicking on the pavement. I returned to Caldwell's office, breathless, my pulse hammering. He studied me, a satisfied gleam in his eyes.
"See? Discipline."
"You can do it." I said nothing, too shaken, too conflicted. Because he was right, I had done it, and part of me wanted to do it again. That night, Emma caught me staring into space at the dinner table. "You're different lately," she said softly, setting down her fork. "I don't know if it's work or if it's me. But you're keeping something from me, aren't you?" Her eyes searched mine, wide and vulnerable. My chest ached. I wanted to confess, to spill everything and beg her to understand. But the words stuck like thorns in my throat. "I'm fine," I lied. "It's just work pressure." She studied me for a long moment, then sighed. "I want to believe you, Daniel. But I know when you're hiding." Her voice broke me more than Caldwell's threats ever could. 2 days later, disaster nearly struck again. I had returned home early, certain Emma wouldn't be back for hours. The temptation was too strong. I pulled out the floral dress, slipped it on, and stood in front of the mirror. I practiced walking, practiced smiling. The heels clicked softly against the floor, my reflection shifting between Daniel and someone else entirely. The front door opened. "Daniel? You home?" Emma's voice carried down the hall. My blood froze. I bolted for the bedroom, nearly stumbling in the heels. I yanked off the wig and stuffed it under the bed, tugged the dress halfway off, just as she stepped into the doorway. She frowned. "What are you doing?" I stood there, half-turned, clutching the fabric to my chest. My mind raced, every excuse collapsing before it formed. The silence stretched, sharp and unbearable. Her eyes flicked to the hem of the dress, to the wig peeking out from under the bed. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What is this?" My mouth opened, but no words came. My secret had finally cracked open. And for the first time, I didn't know whether I wanted to run or let her see all of me. Her voice cracked the silence of the bedroom. "Daniel, what is this?" I froze, the dress half clinging to me, my body trembling under her gaze. The wig peeked from beneath the bed like an accusing shadow. Every lie I'd ever told her pressed down on me at once. My lips parted, but the truth refused to form. It's not what it looks like," I stammered, though it was exactly what it looked like. Emma's eyes filled with a storm of confusion, hurt, and disbelief. "Then tell me what it is." My heart slammed against my ribs. I wanted to collapse, to beg for her understanding, but all I managed was a broken whisper. It's complicated." Her shoulders stiffened. She turned, her voice flat and trembling. "I don't even know who you are anymore." She left the room before I could answer, the sound of the front door slamming echoing like a final verdict. I sank to the floor, clutching the dress to my chest, my breath shuddering. For weeks, I had been walking a tightrope, balancing lies and fear. Now the rope had snapped. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, when I dragged myself into work, Caldwell was already waiting in his office, smirking as if he had orchestrated everything. "Rough night?" he asked smoothly. I glared at him, my voice raw. "She knows."
Emma saw me.
"Are you happy?" He leaned back, folding his hands. "Happy? I'm thrilled. This only proves what I've said all along. You can't hide forever." My fists clenched. "You've ruined my life." "On the contrary," he said calmly, "I've revealed your truth. You don't hate the dresses, Daniel. You hate being caught. There's a difference." His words sliced through me. I wanted to scream, to deny it, but the memory of that night in the cafe, the strange thrill of being unseen yet seen, burned in my chest. "You're insane," I spat. He smiled, cold and unshaken. "Perhaps. But you'll return tonight for another session. And this time, you'll thank me for it." At home, Emma was waiting. She sat on the couch, her arms crossed, her eyes red from crying. The silence between us was unbearable. Finally, she broke it. "Tell me the truth, Daniel. All of it. No excuses." I stood frozen in the doorway, my throat dry. Every option spun through my head. Deny, confess, run. But her eyes held me in place, eyes that deserved honesty. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this," I whispered. "It started because of work. My boss, he forced me into it, threatened me." Emma frowned, confusion deepening. "Forced you? Into what?" I hesitated, then exhaled shakily. Into this. The clothes. The makeup. Pretending to be someone I'm not. Her face softened for a brief moment, but then hardened again. Daniel, I don't know what terrifies me more, that your boss is controlling you, or that part of you seems to want this. Her words struck like lightning because she wasn't wrong. I wanted to deny it, but my silence betrayed me. She looked away, tears spilling down her cheeks. I don't even know who I married. I stepped forward, desperate. Emma, please. She raised her hand, cutting me off. Until you figure out who you are, I can't do this. I can't live in lies. Her words shattered me. She left the room, her footsteps echoing through the house, leaving me alone with the crushing weight of truth. That night, I returned to Caldwell's office, not because I wanted to, but because I had nowhere else to go. He was waiting with another outfit, sleeker, bolder, with a short black skirt, sheer stockings, and crimson lipstick. Your wife saw you, he said matter-of-factly. Good. Now you have no reason to resist. I shook my head, tears pricking my eyes. She hates me. She doesn't understand. Then stop living for her, he hissed. Start living for you. His words tangled in my chest. I hated him for what he'd done, for breaking my life apart. Yet, when I looked into the mirror in his office, dressed, painted, reshaped, I couldn't deny the surge of something powerful. Was this freedom? Or was it chains disguised as silk? The next day, Emma confronted me again. She stood in the kitchen, her face pale but determined. I want to help you, Daniel. But you need to decide. Do you want this? Or do you want us? Her ultimatum tore me apart. The silence stretched until it was unbearable. I don't know, I finally whispered. Her face crumpled. Then maybe we're already over.
The words gutted me.
I staggered back to work, my mind unraveling. Caldwell saw it instantly, and he smiled like a predator. You've lost her, he said softly. Good. Now you're mine. Something inside me snapped. No, I whispered, shaking my head. Caldwell raised a brow. No. I won't let you destroy me, I said, my voice trembling but steady. Not anymore. His smile vanished, replaced by a flicker of rage. You think you have a choice? For the first time, I held his gaze without fear.
Yes.
I do. The words felt like fire on my tongue, but they were mine. That night, alone in the bedroom, I opened the closet and stared at the rows of dresses, wigs, and heels that had become my prison. My hands trembled as I touched the fabric, torn between burning it all and wearing it again. Emma's words echoed in my mind.
Caldwell's threats haunted me. Who was I now?
The man Emma married? The puppet Caldwell controlled? Or someone entirely new? The mirror reflected all three at once. And as I stared into it, one truth became undeniable. Whatever choice I made next would change everything. The mirror didn't lie. It showed three people at once. The Daniel who had once been ordinary, the painted stranger Caldwell demanded, and the broken reflection Emma could no longer love. I pressed my forehead against the glass, my breath fogging the surface. My hands shook as they brushed the dress hanging on the door. The silky fabric whispered against my skin, tempting me, accusing me. The phone on the nightstand buzzed. My stomach twisted. A message. I reached for it with trembling fingers. It was from Caldwell. Tomorrow. One final test. If you fail, everything comes crashing down. The words burned on the screen. My chest tightened, and I felt the walls closing in. I wanted to throw the phone, to shatter it, to sever the chain that bound me to him. But my thumb hovered, paralyzed. Another buzz. This time a new message. Emma's name lit the screen. We need to talk. If you want me back, be honest. No more lies. 2 messages. 2 choices. I stood there, caught between them, my heart splitting in two. One promised destruction. The other demanded truth. Both terrified me. The silence of the house pressed in until I could hear my pulse roaring in my ears. My reflection in the mirror seemed to move, mocking me, as though daring me to choose. I whispered aloud, my voice cracking. Who am I? And then, knock. A sudden, sharp knock at the front door. I jumped, my blood freezing. At this hour? The knock came again. Firmer. Insistent. Every nerve in my body screamed with dread. Slowly, I crept toward the door, each step like walking to the edge of a cliff. I pressed my ear against the wood, breath shallow. Daniel? The voice was muffled, but unmistakable.
Emma.
My heart leapt, relief and fear colliding. But before I could reach for the handle, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Caldwell lit up the screen. Don't open that door. The words sent ice through my veins. I froze, staring between the phone and the door. Emma's voice called again, louder, more desperate. Daniel, please. Open up. My chest heaved, sweat dripping down my spine. Two voices, two paths, two versions of myself pulling me apart. The mirror on the wall reflected my wide, panicked eyes, the dress hanging from my hand, the lipstick still smeared across my mouth. I didn't know if I was about to reclaim my life or lose it forever. I reached for the door handle, and the screen went black.